All right, so 5 times x minus 2. I'm going to write it over here. What I'm going to do again is I'm going to write it as the box right over here. So now let's think about it this way. 5 times, because remember, the parentheses means times. 5 times box will give you 20, right? Because anything that I see with the letter and the parentheses, like someone was saying before, you can kind of think of them as like a wall. Just like kind of box them out and have them separate. Just because I know that everything in the parentheses is going to be affected by another answer. So I'm just putting it all in the box just so it's easier to see. So 5 times what number in the box will give you 20? What do you guys think?
4.
4.
6.
This has to be 4 because 5 times 4 is
Yeah.
equal to 20. So now that we have that,
But the
I think that the x now has to be 6, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're
6
seeing this.
2 is 4.
Yes. That's exactly how to do it. And I'm happy that you were able to see it so fast. So she's right. It is 6 because we know that 5 times 4 is equal to 20. But we have to go back to over here. The box, inside the box is x minus 2. And in order to get 4, we have to have 6 minus 2, which will give us 4, and that's the answer. So let's see. Do you guys want to try, let's try this one over here. 31 minus x is equal to 29. And then what I'll do, this one is actually not too bad. I don't even think you really need the box, but I'll do it just in case. So 31 minus a box is equal to 29. What is that? 2. And there's really nothing there. The 2 is just the x, so the answer is just 2. So that one was pretty easy. Let's look at the next one. And for this one, I'm not going to tell you guys the steps. I want you guys to tell me the steps. So let me just rewrite things that I erased.
For the 8 times x plus 1.
Okay, so what would I put in the box?
You put
The
2.
X, like the plus sign, it looks like
2.
it doesn't look like a plus sign.
Oh, sorry about that. That is an x plus 1. Hopefully that looks a little bit better.
For me, the x is 2 because 3 times 8 is 24.
Well, the x, it is 2, but I just want to make sure that like we're doing the steps. So like that's the right answer. So I'm gonna write it on the side, just because it's really good that we have that.
And then 2
But,
plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, and 3 times 8 is 24.
yeah. So I'll just do it again like with this way, just for people who, because I'm only hearing a few voices, and I just want to make sure everyone is understanding. Remember that if you don't understand what I'm doing, you can speak up because no one here is gonna judge you. No one is gonna get mad at you. We just want to make sure that everyone is learning. So going back to this little box thing, it would be 8 times the box is equal to 24. It has to be 3 because 8 times 3 is 24. And like what she said, there's only one number plus 1 that will give you 3, and that's 2. So x has to be equal to 2. So again, and now look what we can kind of like notice something. I see x is equal to 2 twice. That already fits the
you can
rule.
mark it off.
Yep, exactly. Because it says more than one of the 6 equations, so that one works. So we already have one of our answers. We could have more though. So let's try the other one. 34 minus 7x is equal to 20. I'm going to put 7x in the box because whenever I see the letters, the variables, I'm just going to put it in the box just because it's easier to see it that way. 34 minus box is equal to 20. What number does that have to be?
14.
14. What number, now going back to this one, what number times 7 will give you 14?
2.
2.
2. Perfect, that's the answer. And now let's try one more, the last one. I mean, we already got 2 before, so we've already checked it off. So it's kind of like this one was like a waste, just because we already know that x is equal to 2 is one of the answers. But let's try the last one. All right. So it says 3x plus 6 is equal to 21. 3x plus 6, is equal to 21. All right.
Yeah, this way is way easier.
I'm going to put the box. I'm happy to hear that. I'm going to put the box inside here. So what number, well, box plus 6 is 21. So what number plus 6 will give you 21?
14.
15.
15.
Oh, so it's 5.
Yes, 15. So, and like you said, it is 5 because 3 times 5 gives you 15 over here. So the answer to this one is 5. And now that we have written all the answers down, the ones that I see more than once are, of course, x is equal to 2, that's there 3 times, and x is equal to 5, that's there twice. So those are the answers to that problem. So hopefully this method made more sense. If it didn't make more sense, please let me know right now, just so that we can make sure we're understanding it. But if it did, then I'm really happy. And yeah, we'll move on to the next one if everyone is okay with it. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
All right. So all right, so I'll just move on to the next one. And the next two shouldn't be too bad, just because it's stuff that we've seen before. And it was stuff that we were doing on the other page. It's just kind of like plugging things in and checking. That's kind of how I see it. All right, let me just get something that dropped. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's see. It says from the set 7, 15, and 18, which of the values can be substituted for C to make the equation true? 90 minus 2C is equal to 60. All right, so and this may be familiar to you guys just because we were doing it on the previous page, but all we're going to be doing is we're going to be plugging in, or substituting, that's another word for plug in, into this equation over here. And we're going to be plugging in each value from this set to see which one works. And the set is 7, 15, and 18. Remember, the set the set is just a certain list of numbers. That's really what it is. And our list is 7, 15, and 18. So let's plug in 7 first.
So the list doesn't have to have a pattern.
No, it doesn't. So sometimes it will have a pattern. And like that's true, it will have a pattern. But other times it can just be a random list of numbers that have no relationship whatsoever. So that's just like a good thing to know about sets. So can someone tell me what the answer to this one is? I plugged in 7 for C because it's saying substituted for C. Now, but I don't know how to solve it. So can someone tell me what the answer is when you plug in 7?
C. Oh, what?
Yeah, so I plugged in 7 for C, and I just need you to simplify this answer right over here, because now we don't know what that's equal to. We don't know if it's equal to 60 yet. Basically, what we're doing is we're testing each value to see which one gives us 60. So we have to plug in each value to see which one gives us 60.
That's 76, right?
Yes, it's 76. So we plugged in 7, we got 76, and 76 is not equal to 60. So 7 cannot be the answer, because when we plug in 7, we get 76. We don't get 60. It can't be the answer. So I'm going to go for choice B now. It says 18. Let's try that one. All right. So I'm going to write the equation again. Let me write it in a different color. And I want someone to tell me where to plug in the 18. So where would it go? Where would the 18 go, guys?
To the 2 where the C is.
Yeah, perfect.
In
So
parentheses.
once you plug it in there, yep, it's always good to use the parentheses. Now what you get is your answer.
You get
it would be 90 minus 36.
Yeah.
And then what's the answer to that?
It's
Wait, oh,
54?
54.
54, yes. So again, I don't think that's 60. I think that's a little too small. So this one can't be the answer too. So now we have none of these or D, 15. So I'm going to plug in 15, and if that doesn't work, then the answer is none of these. I don't like when they put none of these just because it makes us do all that work for nothing. But hopefully 15 is the answer. So when you plug in 15 over here, and what's 2 times 15?
30.
30. So what's 90 minus 30?
60.
60. So that one works because 60 is what we're looking for. 60 is the answer we got. The answer is D. So this is just plugging things in and checking. I think you guys know how to do it really well. So that's really good. But yeah, so D would be the answer. And it looks like number 3 is like the same thing, but it's with equations and inequalities now. So let's clear this and move on to number 3. We're probably gonna finish a little bit earlier today just because I don't want to do every problem from the next section. I also want to do a few just so we can kind of start seeing it, and then we'll finish that up on Friday. So let's see. From the set 5, 15, 23, the same set with a certain list of numbers, which of the values can be substituted for m to make the equation true? Right. So our new equation, and we're still substituting and we're plugging it in, but this is our new one. 4 plus m is less than 19. So now what we have to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug in each number here into m and see if it's true. So the first one I'm going to plug in choice A. Choice A says 15, so I'm going to plug in 15. You can use parentheses or you can just write it in, doesn't matter. I always like to use parentheses just because so I know which one I plugged in something for. So 4 plus 15 is less than 19. Well, 4 plus 15 is 19, and 19 isn't less than 19. That's false. 19 is equal to 19. So remember how we were saying, if I think someone was confused about this, if the sign had a little bar underneath, like a little line, that would be true because that means less than,
And equal.
or equal to. And since 19 is equal to that, it's true. But since we have just the sign without the little bar, it's false because they're equal to each other. It's not that 19 is less than 19, they're just equal. So that one doesn't work. So I'm gonna go ahead and cross this one off. Choice A. Oops, sorry about that. Choice A is wrong. So let's see the next one. The next one that I see is choice C with 23. So I'm gonna plug in that one. 4 plus m is less than 19. If I plug in 23, I got 27 here. This 4 plus 23 is 27. When I do that though, there's no way that can be true. That only works if the sign is this way, if the alligator is eating the bigger one. So since 27 is bigger than 19, this sign doesn't work, which means that 23 is not true. So again, we're gonna try choice D, and if that works, then we have our answer, and if not, the answer is none of these. So let's plug that in and see what we get. Good. I'm happy someone got it. So when you plug in 5 over here, can someone tell me what you get as your answer on the left side?
9.
9. And is that less than 19?
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. So let's see, which of the following can be substituted to make the equation true? Well, since that's the only one that's true, everything else is false. Our answer is D. So that's really how you do it. We're done with this section. I really do think that the hardest one from this section was this one over here. I think the other ones were a little bit easier to understand. Even though you guys are really, really smart. It's just that number one, like it's really hard to do it just because it's doing stuff that you've never seen before at all. But hopefully the box method made it a little bit easier to understand and
Yeah.
see the answer. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is we're done with this page over here. So I'm gonna share the next session file, which you guys also got in the email today. Again, remember you don't always have to print it out. You can just follow along. And we're just gonna do like maybe 4 problems, and a lot of them have several parts. So I'm just gonna do a few of them. All right. So this is our last like section. As you guys may notice, every single section has like all these letters at the top. This is the last like group. So it's the last one. And then once you guys are done with that, you guys have officially learned all of 6th grade in a few weeks. So
Oh my.
yeah, it's crazy to hear. But
Yeah.
all right. So let's see. It says use the information provided to answer part A and part B. And I will say that the standard here is RP, which stands for ratios and proportions. So that's what we're going to be using for most of these problems.
I've done
All
that
right.
and I already.
Oh, perfect. That's really cool. And it means that you're probably gonna understand this, so that's really good too. So let's see. It says the ratio of the sales tax to the amount of a purchase is a fixed number in town Q. So it says the ratio of the sales tax, and you guys know that a ratio can just also be represented as a fraction. So it says the sales tax to the amount of a purchase, so purchase, is a fixed number. That means that the ratio is staying the same. The proportion is staying the same for anything. So what that gives you the right to do is to use this and set up a proportion. And I'll ask you guys if you've seen that before. But all right, let's see. It says the ratio of the sales tax to the amount of a purchase is a fixed number in town Q. The table shows the sales tax for a purchase of 1,200. All right, so let's see. It says shows the sales tax for a purchase. So what I'm going to do now is write the ratio for this one that we do know. We know those. Everything else has a question mark, so I can't write the ratio. But I do know it for this. So it can be 72 over 1,200 because we know it, and we know it. Yeah, it's the only one we know. And we put sales tax on the top, 72, and then we put the purchase price on the bottom, 1,200. So that's kind of how you set it up, at least. All right, so I will say this before you can move on. Before we move on, you are allowed to have a calculator next to you for these problems. I don't know if that's ever been allowed for you guys, but since these numbers are kind of big, they do let you have that. So if you have a calculator on hand, you can use it. If you don't, I have one next to me, so I'll do like all the big solving with all the big numbers. But if you want to follow along with your own calculator, that's perfectly fine too. All right, so let's see. What is the sales tax for a purchase of $2,500? Okay, so basically, the $2,500 is over here. We're missing this one, the question mark. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a proportion to figure out the missing value.
I think it's D.
You think it's D? That's the answer. It is. So now that we've done that, and let me know if you guys have seen this before, you put the proportion or the ratio that you do know, 72 over 1,200, and then you have another proportion there. I'm going to erase this. It's kind of getting in the way. And then you put the one that you don't know, and you put a letter for the one that you're trying to find. So remember, sales tax goes on the top. So we're trying to find this one. And we know the purchase price over here. So 2,500. So have you guys seen problems like that set up before? Or not really?
No, I've never.
No.
You've never?
So I'm kind of confused.
Okay, so really what you're doing is you're using what you know, the ratio you know, to find the ratio that you're missing. And when you do that, you're basically just, how do I explain it? it's just like you're setting up equivalent fractions if you think about it. Since the ratio is
Like-
always going to be the same, then that means that the fractions are going to be equal, and that's why I put them equal right here. Because
When you divide both, when you divide both, they both give you 16.
okay, wait, but there is an easier way to do it, and I'm going to teach you something called cross multiplying. So we set it up. At least you guys understand the ratio part of sales tax over purchase, right? Because that's what it says. The ratio of the sales tax of a purchase to the amount of a purchase. Does that make sense? Or not really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one makes sense because it tells us in the problem. It says the ratio. So when you see ratio, you can automatically put a fraction of the sales tax. So sales tax goes on the top. Sorry for writing that weird. To the amount of a purchase. 2 is like your denominator. It's like your bar. It's one of those key words. So the purchase would go on the bottom. I'm not gonna finish writing that. All right. So once we do that, you guys know that you can apply the one that we just found to the problem itself. So going to the problem, and I'm just gonna erase a lot of this just because it's kind of in the way. We can set up a ratio with what we have in the problem because we know that the ratio is sales tax over purchase. So with here, it would be 72 over 1,200. And that's the one that will work for every single thing. And since it's saying that it's a fixed number, kind of think about it this way. It means that this fraction has to be equal to every other fraction that's here. Number one, number two, number three. That means that question mark over 2,500 has to be equal because it's the same ratio. It's sales tax, question mark, over purchase, 2,500. And then for the last one, 108 over question mark has to be equal because it's the same. It's a fixed number. It's the same. And it's going to be the same for every single one. We just have to find what that missing one is, but we know that it's the same. And that's why I put an equal sign here, because I know that they're all the same from the problem. I just need to find the X one that's missing. So does that kind of make more sense? A little bit or not really?
Kinda.
Kind of. All right. So we know that they're equal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solve for X. And it's something called cross multiplying. So I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but cross multiplication, what you do is you multiply these, the one's diagonal. And then
Yeah, we've seen that before.
Yeah, you multiply those. And then when you do that, you get one, and then you just continue solving. So 1,200 times X is 1,200X, and then 72 times 2,500. So that's the time where I would say pick up your calculator, just because of course you can do that on the side, but the calculator will easily just tell you the answer is 180,000. So when you do that, you do get 180,000. And of course you could do that on the side, but I'm telling you, you're allowed to use your calculator for this on the test. I don't know if in Ms. Borges' class she'll let you, but on the actual FSA, you will be allowed to use it. So by doing that, all you have to do now is solve for X, right? All you have to do is solve for X.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait, someone was gonna
Yeah.
say something. What were you gonna say? I heard someone kind of
Never mind.
talking. Never mind. Okay. Now all we have to do is solve for X. In order to solve for X, this goes back to like what we were kind of saying like in that previous problem with I know it's kind of confusing, but in order to get X by itself, we have to do the opposite. So you guys have to divide by 1,200 on both sides. Just because the box rule, I don't know if it'll work this time, just because when you box this out, I can't think of a number off the top of my head that will give me 180,000 when I have 1,200. That's way too big. So if you divide by 1,200 on both sides, you're multiplying it here, all I have to do is divide it. That cancels out. And then, like someone said, when you divide those together, you get 150. And you can do that in your
Yeah.
calculator too. So the answer is D. So does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Is anyone really confused?
I'm really confused.
All right. So what are you really confused about? Like what was the part where like you just stopped understanding?
Like that cross
The cross multiply.
division. Yeah, and how
Okay.
you got. Yeah, no, I don't understand it.
Okay, so cross multiplying. It's something new. If you haven't seen it before, it is like a new way of solving. But basically what you do, and this is gonna be the rule for every time you see it. If you have two fractions that are equal to each other, so erase that. If you have two fractions that are equal to each other, and you're missing there's some part of the fraction that you're missing. It can be x, it can be y, it can be another variable. But if there's something that's missing, all you have to do in order to make this prettier, because obviously the fraction form, I would say the fraction form is harder to see than like 2x plus 3 is equal to 5. We want to put it in this form. We don't want it in fraction form because fraction form is just that much harder. So in order to get it, in order to get rid of the fractions, we cross multiply. In cross multiplying, all you do is you multiply the diagonals every time. So it would be 1,200 times x, and then 72 times 2,500. So this is what you do. The equal sign, sorry about that, it stays in the same place, right over here. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put on the left 1,200 times x, and then on the other side, I'm gonna put 72 times 2,500 or 2,500, because we're multiplying them now. We're cross multiplying. And when you do that, now is when you can use your calculator, and then you get 1,200x is equal to, I think that was 180,000. So does that kind of make sense? A little bit more, the steps at least.
Okay, yeah.
Just because it is just you're multiplying the ones that are across from each other. Like think about the partner on the other side. That one goes with that, and that one goes with that. It literally forms like an X. So if you kind of draw an X on your paper and like maybe that'll help you. Like those two connect and those two connect, and you just multiply them. So all we have to do now is just solve for X, and we got that. So the answer is 150. So let's do part B. All right. So we're gonna be using the same thing for part B. Now all we're doing is we're solving, and let me erase this. Sorry.
And you could kind of like make sure that you have it by estimating.
Yeah. I agree. It's like you can kind of notice that like it would be like close. Yeah, I would say for number one at least, it looks like they're like doubling the price over here, because 1,200 doubled is 2,400, and it's a little bit more. So this doubled would be 144, but remember it's a little bit more, so it would be 150. So I like that idea
I
too.
think.
You just want to check. Yeah.
Can I say a way and you say if that's gonna help with like different other problems, or is it just a coincidence that I got it right?
Okay. So what's the way you got?
So since I saw that 1,200 is around half of 2,500, I put twice the amount and then I subtracted it by 2,500, which is 100. And then I just like there I kind of knew because I could double 72, and then it'll be, and then my answer I got it 144, but then I knew that there was 100 like extra, so I added, so I'm like, okay, so what's the next number that's like the biggest, and then I went for that one. But is this way like a good way to figure out the extra 100, like what's the volume of the extra 100 to the sales
All
tax?
right. So I like that idea because it's like a great way to use mental math. But like it won't always work because like what if, for example, if the choices were instead of these two, it was like 160 and then 170. I wouldn't know, like, since there's, or even worse, like what if it was like 151 and 152? Then
Right.
it'd be like a little bit harder to figure it out. But for this problem, if you notice that there's just one answer, if you see it for this problem, there's only one possible answer, go for it. But if you don't see that, then you would put a different one, just because you solve it a different way. Just because if they're all close, it's meant to trick you, and when they're all close together, they're pretty much testing your knowledge of just solving for the x and the proportions. But I really like what you're saying, and like for this problem at least, it was really good. So don't
Yeah,
worry,
but
it's like
the
a really
way.
good approach. So all right. And now that we've done the next one, we can kind of use like a similar logic. Um I'll tell you guys, someone already put the answer in the group chat, but in the chat, but I'll just tell you guys what the answer is just most obviously. 108 is between 72 and 144. So that means our purchase, our missing thing, has to be in between 1,200 and 2,500. This isn't in between, this isn't in between, this isn't in between, this is the answer. See how like that was kind of easy to do? The
Yeah.
sales tax, there's only one possible answer that's in between those two, since the sales tax is in between those two. But we're gonna do it the official way, just because that's what I'm here to do, teach you guys the official way. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna set up another proportion. And I promise proportions become really helpful as soon as you get the hang of them. So remember the proportion is sales tax over purchase. And again, the one that we always know is 72 over 1,200. I'm gonna set that equal to, we don't know the purchase, so that's on the bottom. We know the sales tax, we know that's 108. You kind of have to line up the sides with what you know. So even though we don't know the purchase over here, it still goes on the bottom because it's sales tax over purchase. Sales tax goes on the top, purchase goes on the bottom. 108 goes on the top, X or question mark goes on the bottom. So the next thing that we do, we cross multiply and then we solve for X. So remember, kind of draw, you can do it like two little ovals, or you can do like an X to like help you remember. When you do that though, the equal sign gets carried down. You get 72X, and you get, now's the time to use the calculator. You get 1,200 times 108. The answer to that is 129,600. Really big numbers. And then all you have to do now is to get rid of the X. So you divide by 72 on both sides. And your answer, when you do that, you should get 1,800, which is what we got. So at least for this one, I will say that there are a few like logical answers that you could have used to get the answer. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that you noticed that. And just kind of, this is like an intro to cross multiplication, so it's okay if you don't perfectly understand it now, but at least you've seen it before, so that's good. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I kind of get it, but in another quick way, but with my calculator.
Okay, so how'd you do it?
Because first I put 1,200.
Yeah.
And then you divide
To figure out part B.
it by 72.
Okay.
And then you get 16, 6, 6, 6. I just count the first one, which is 16. And then
Okay.
I put the 2 and the 500. And then I divide it by the biggest number and then the smallest. And I kind of like round it to which one it will be. So then I get 1.
Oh. Okay, so what you were doing was you were like,
And I get 16 again. So like every time I do it, like for the B, I get like 1,750 something, and then I round it, so it gives me 1,800.
oh, okay. Okay, so for at least for part A, you divided 1,200 by 72 and you got like 0.16 or something, right? Or something like
Yeah.
that. And then what you did here is you went through every answer and see which one gave you the same 0.16.
Yeah.
Okay, so that works. So that's another way of doing it. Of course, like I'm trying to tell you guys like the direct way to get the answer, so you don't have to do that, and just to understand how to get it. Just because it's setting up ratios and proportions. That's a really important topic. But if you're ever like unsure of it and you want to try it out that way, that would work. It's just
Right.
you have to do it the way you know to do it, but it's also good to just know the official way to do it too.
Okay.
But like I would say that that's good to use if you like don't if you just completely forgot on the test, you're unsure of what to do, and you just need to submit something. So that's
Right.
good. All right. So it's already 10:44. So what I'll do is I'll do this page and then we'll stop for today. This should be kind of familiar. I think we've done problems like this before. So it says part A and part B, and the problem just says Chad drove 168 miles in 3 hours. So how many miles per hour did Chad drive? This is definitely something we've seen before. In order to get miles per hour, the per is like your fraction sign. You have to divide the 168 miles that you have here per 3 hours. And then when you do that, again, you can use your calculator.
56.
168 divided by 3, you get 56. So how many miles per hour did Chad drive? He drove 56.
56.
That's simple. And then let's look at part B. Chad will drive 672 more
Oh my
miles.
God.
He continues to drive at the same rate. How many hours will it take to drive the 672 miles? Okay.
Ooh. Ooh.
So this goes to we're going to be using what we got over here to help us get the answer to part B. But this is now our proportion problem. Because it's saying out how many hours, we don't know the hours. That's what we're missing. So it's telling us he drove 672 miles, but we don't know the hours. I'm going to put question mark hours. It doesn't tell us. But we do know the rate. We do know how many miles he did in 1 hour, because this is miles per 1 hour. Miles per hour.
Can I say
So,
what I think it is?
all right, what do you think it is?
12.
12? Yes,
Yeah.
that's the answer. That's the answer. So, when you set up the proportion, at least, notice how it's still miles per hour, miles per the fraction sign hour for both. And since we know that this one over here, 56, it's 56 miles per 1 hour because he did it in that's the amount he did in 1 hour. So remember, all we have to do is cross multiply again. I always like to circle it so it's easier. So this is like 56 question mark. We don't know what that is. 672. How do we just put the question mark by itself? We divide by 56 on both sides.
It's different.
I found a
And
quicker
then
way.
you get 12. So how'd you do it? Just because like I'm teaching it the way that like the standards are telling me, because it says RP, which means that they want me to teach it to you like in the proportion way. But I know there's other ways to do it, so I want to know how you guys did that.
The first thing that I did was find the relationship. Well, if there was a relationship, which there was, the relationship between 672 and 168, and it was 4 because I divided it. So it was 4 times. So it was 4 times the amount. So 3 times 4, it'd be 12.
Yeah, and you could also
Yeah,
just do
that's how I got
670, and then you could also just do, because we got 56 over here, we could just do, instead of just doing the proportion, you can just do, because the relationship still works. We just kind of like we're doing it in a different way. If we divide 672 by 56, we get 12 right away. So you can do it this way and just remember that this is 3 times, because it's 3 hours, or you can just do it this way because this is 56 miles per hour. It's just 56 per 1 hour. So you don't have to do the 3 times. It just gives you the answer right away. So both ways are good, or all 3 ways are good. It's just about finding the answer and finding the best way to do it, of course.